It was a Summit League split for the South Dakota women last week, a win at North Dakota and a loss to South Dakota State. Here to talk about both those games is head coach Kayla Karius. And Kayla, that trip to Grand Forks is never an easy one, but it was an important game. You guys had won 2 straight going into that one. And I know one thing that you've been talking about is trying to string 40 minutes together. It felt like you were pretty close in that particular contest.
Yeah, I think we were too. I think there's always going to be times where coaches get nitpicky, and you feel like you stretch the lead a little bit out in that second quarter and built a 13-point lead, and then they close it to 2 at halftime. And so it's just that second quarter lull, I think, where we're just having a hard time putting the ball in the basket, and then they go on a little bit of a run. But I love the way that our team responded coming out of halftime. We really strung together a good second half to hold a team, any team in this league, but to 21 points in the second half is a really big deal. So I was proud of our defensive effort, and you're right, pretty close on going 40 minutes, just competing really hard.
You know, it was a very balanced effort too, in terms of you didn't have that real standout scorer in this game. There was a lot of different kids contributing in big ways all across the box score.
Yeah, agree. I mean, Grace has always been able to be pretty consistent for us, but other people are continuing to step up. It was really fun to see Natalie Mazurek back out there, and they have a 6'7" player that's out there trying to guard her, and she's able to stretch the floor like that. It's fun to see her hit 3 threes and just to challenge that player a little bit with her versatility. So that's been really fun to see. Carly Duffney, I think, had another good night, and there was just the balance part of it is really, really positive for us to see at this time of the year.
You mentioned Natalie and her ability to stretch the floor a little bit and caused some real matchup issues, and she's been so good here over those last 8 games and just continues to deliver every time she's called on.
Yeah, no question. It was fun to see that. She had 11 points in the first half, and again, she hits the first one and you want to go back to her and go back to her and go back to her because she just lets it fly and just has such great touch. But I also think her rebounding and her defensive presence has continued to get better. The more and more she's been back into it, coming off of this injury, and has settled in this year, though it maybe had taken a little bit longer. She's really settling in nicely. Her confidence is high, and what a fun piece for us to have out on the floor.
Hey, you certainly were playing some of your best basketball this season coming into Saturday against South Dakota State, and great start, just like it was the first time. You had a great first quarter in this game.
Yeah, great. Little ugly, but still good. Yeah, and to hold them to 7 points in the first quarter, I just felt like we had great focus and great intentionality with what our game plan was going to be, and just forced really difficult shots, which I think was a great plan, and then being able to just go ahead and rebound out of it. I think some of our best possessions then were getting out in transition and really pushing the ball. Again, just using our depth that way, using our speed and trying to attack quickly. I feel like that the start that we got off to was really great, and then again, with the second quarter, just don't feel like we were quite at the same spot defensively. I mean, you're still holding them to 29 points at halftime, and I feel like we got to halftime thinking, well, we didn't play great in the second quarter, and we're still only down 4, kind of right where we need to be. Now we've got to make some quick adjustments and play better, and we've got to make some more shots in the second half in order to go ahead and beat that team.
In the beginning of this game, when things were going well for you, obviously we all know how your team likes to shoot the 3 and is very good at it, among the best in the entire country in that particular category. You were doing a lot of your damage inside. So what was the game plan in that way coming in, and how did it get flipped around where that part of it wasn't as successful going forward?
Well, we talked a lot going into this game about having more balance to our offense, and I think sometimes we can get really 3 heavy, and we are taking about half of our shots from the 3-point line, and because of the way we shoot it, I think that's a really good thing because it can open up things inside, but you can't always just live and die by it. And I think once we got into that point of the game, we were talking about, okay, we need more balance now. We need to get the ball inside. We need to have some drives. We need to just get the defense shifting in a different way. And it's a really tough defensive team is South Dakota State, and the way that they're holding teams down. I mean, every team in this league has struggled to score against them, and I think the thing that they do is they just really try to take away some of your best players, and they really force other role players to step up and to score, and that's how you have to beat them. So we were having great success inside. I think going inside to Natalie Mazurek inside was a really good option, but Carly Duffney was posting up. We were getting post touches there. We were even posting up Grace and some of our guards, and I think taking advantage of the size there. So I think going forward, we just learned we have to continue to have balance in the offense. You're never going to beat teams consistently only doing one thing well.
Maybe one thing that got lost a little bit in the results, the fact that Grace became the 18th player in program history to 1,000 points and 500 rebounds. There's not a lot of kids who go home and at the end of their careers can say something like that. I mean, I don't think anybody who's watched Grace Larkins is surprised that she's one of them, but at the same time, quite an accomplishment for her.
And at the guard position,
Yeah.
right? That's different if you're looking at a post player who's always around the rim. But love the way that she goes and pursues, even offensive rebounds. She's constantly around the rim, just hawking the ball. And you're talking about somebody who loves to score. So she can't score unless she has it in her hands. So she goes and gets it in her hands. And I think that's just another reason. It just shows her impact, not only just in the box score day to day and leading this team in a lot of different categories, but just on our program in general. I think she's been a great leader for us, and consistency. I keep coming back to that because I think it's easier for a player to show up 1 or 2 games and then kind of take a couple games where you don't notice that person. Grace is somebody that people notice every single time that she steps out on the floor, and I think that there's a lot to be said about a player who's consistent.
Absolutely. One game on the schedule this week, and
Right.
it's a tough trip in Denver because there's the environmental aspect of this particular road game that you just don't have anywhere else with altitude.
Yeah.
So that being said, obviously Denver is a team that showed you a couple of weeks ago here that they
Yeah.
can be dangerous, especially when they get hot from outside. They've won a couple games in a row now
Yeah.
too, so this is one you're going to have to be ready for.
This is yet another game where we have to start by telling our players, scrap the record. Just cross it off. It doesn't matter. This team is very competitive. They're just coming off of a great home win against Oral Roberts, who is, as we all know, a very talented team. And they are very dangerous because of the way they shoot the three. And they hit 16 threes on Saturday, and really just it wasn't even really close with Oral Roberts much of the game. And so it's why they're dangerous. You have to guard the arc. Of course, they've got a couple pieces inside. I think Jones is playing really well, and she's just kind of a matchup nightmare for some people. Tori DePerry did a great job on her. Actually, Natalie Mazurek guarded her a little bit last time and kind of held her down. But she's a physical player and somebody who's going to get to the rim, and that's how they find their balance. Everybody else, pretty much that they put on the floor, is a 3-point threat. So you've got to be ready to have high-hand closeouts and really guard the dribble well enough where you don't have to overhelp and they kick it out for 3. And we're going to have to be ready to go. It's a dangerous team in their own way, and anytime you build that confidence like they have the last couple of games, they're feeling good about themselves. So it'll be another challenge for us.
All right, well, good luck to you. We look forward to catching up again next week.
Okay, sounds great.